Welcome to this episode of Part of the Arts with me, Rebecca Godden. Today I am joined by guest Albert Bramante. Now, he wears a lot of hats: hypnosis, NLP expert, talent agent, professor, author, and AI educator. But at the heart of it all, helping creatives rewire their mindset and build purpose-driven careers. From booking Broadway roles to breaking through imposter syndrome, they've spent nearly 20 years guiding performers, students, and artists through fear, burnout, and self-sabotage, using tools that blend psychology, performance, and yes, even AI. We talk about all of this in this episode, about mental blocks, career momentum, what it means to rise above the script, which is the name of his book, by the way, and how artists can use tech without losing their own voice. This one is for anyone wanting to embrace it all, but wondering how to get out of your own way. Enjoy. Hi, Albert. Welcome to Part of the Arts.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Now we're going to get straight into it. We're going to break the ice a little bit. This is the first time we've met, so let's go for it. What is something you have said either in the past or recently out loud that you thought immediately, or even deep regret after the fact? Right, Albert, that should have stayed in your mind.
Well, that happens to me a lot. So I tend to sometimes always put my open mouth, insert foot, type of thing. I'm trying to think what I recently said. Probably something along the line that might have been a little TMI thing.
We love TMI on this podcast. It's fine. There's no such thing as oversharing.
I think one time I was on a Zoom call and I said, I thought my mic was muted. It wasn't. And I said, I'm so gassy today. And I was like, whoops. Okay, well, now they get to know me a little more detail. So you
were like, I'll just share my digestional thing.
Well, I said it to myself. I'm like, why am I so gassy today? And I realized, my mic's still on. Well, okay.
I feel like in our industry, we do that a lot. We talk to ourselves, right?
Of course, especially being an entrepreneur. It's like, that's the one thing about being an entrepreneur. It's like you don't really have I miss the coworkers aspect of it. Like sometimes it is lonely, and sometimes, like I said, either that or I talk to my cats, which sometimes they like. Sometimes they're like, okay, I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm out. But
yeah, honestly, we just said, didn't we, before we hit record today, we're both cat parents, and absolutely, I think she's my therapist sometimes. I just talk at her.
They are, and they're a confidence, and whether they want to or not, they are. It's just
they're there if they want to get fed, and
yeah, exactly. I like the way you think there. If they want to be fed, they have to listen to it. That comes with the territory.
It does, but they are sassy, aren't they? It's on their terms. Like they're like, you can't pet me unless I really want to. Like, understand that. Let me vet you.
and if they want to be petted, they don't care if you're sleeping. It's just I'm here, and there you are.
They're just there. I love that. Well, she's here listening. Khaleesi, my cat, is here listening with us. So if there's any meows, that's her. It means she's enjoying it, I'm sure. That's brilliant. I feel like I say things so often that I just try and just blank them out of my mind now. I think I have got better with age. I think with age, I've got better at not just saying immediately what comes out of my mouth, or comes into my head, come out of my mouth. But there's always times when it just happens and you're like, that shouldn't have come out. But we're human, aren't we? We're human.
Of course we're human beings. I'm still, I've been hearing, because we were just chatting before about AI, and one of the things I've been hearing, and this has been, I don't know how true this is, but they're starting to say that they're going to have technology that can do an output of our thoughts, like a bubble.
Really?
And I'm thinking to myself, how many times would I've gotten myself in trouble if people could read my thoughts? I would definitely be in trouble all the time if people can read my mind.
That sounds like a Black Mirror episode, doesn't it?
Yes. And speaking of Black Mirror, what's interesting, because it's one of my top shows, I really enjoy it.
Me too.
And what I've noticed is how true this is becoming with the development of AI technology. It still is fiction, but it's, you think about it, it's like we're not too far off from some of these episodes really happening.
Yeah, 100%. And I think some of them are a little bit, especially the newest series, some of them are a little bit too close to home.
Yeah.
I feel a bit like, oh, okay, that's yeah. I got quite emotional on one of them because I was like, I could really see that, happening. And it's great, a great piece of art, but it also is, like you said, with the development of AI and technology. And I think, let's get straight into that, because you use it a lot within your work and you talk about AI a lot on podcasts and things, don't you? What is your kind of, if you could sum it up in a way, and we'll delve deeper, but what's your kind of stance on AI within the performing arts, within the arts industry?
It's limitations. I mean, I enjoy it for the brainstorming, the content creation, the automation. Makes things a lot easier, speeds things up, and that's what I really find amazing about it. I do have some concerns, being that I work as and I represent artists, and what concerns me is, especially in the voiceover world,
Yes.
I think because of with voice cloning and voice generated, technology that's really sounding human now, it's going to be a lot more inexpensive for these companies to crank out like audiobooks or narration services without hiring an actual human. So, and then there's also some ethical implications with that too, which is, well, what if you're using someone's voice to do that? Because last year, for instance, the ChatGPT on the phone introduced the voice format where you can actually interact with it by voice.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest controversies in the beginning was the actress Scarlett Johansson was kind of after OpenAI because her and her team were claiming that it was her voice that was using in the automation process. So that is an ethical issue that I could see possibly happening. Also with voice cloning.
I read an article in so Equity, trade union for artists. I read an article in their magazine that they send, if you're an Equity member, you get that kind of quarterly report and magazine from them. And I read in there a similar thing, a guy that kind of an actor who lent his voice to AI, and it wasn't just his voice, it was also his being, and it was in the very early stages of kind of AI being used. And so he kind of not signed his life away, but he'd signed something that was actually in the end unethical, because his likeness and his voice ended up being used for like propaganda for politics in a country he'd never even been to or had anything to do with or had no views on, and it was him, the likeness of him, but it looked like him. If you watched it, you'd be like, oh, that's that's that actor that I've seen on blah blah blah, and he's doing propaganda slandering this country, and he was absolutely distraught and devastated. And this whole article was how Equity has kind of helped him and how they're trying to get a law around it and to make sure artists are more aware of what they're signing when they are working with AI.
And that's a very important point. And this is why it's extremely important for artists to be business and savvy business people, because it's one thing. You really have to read the releases you're signing, and often maybe even have an attorney read that for you, because they can sneak stuff in there like that. And then, and I've seen, because I book a lot of people in commercials, and sometimes my clients would hand me these releases and say, hey, look at this. I'm like, no, don't sign at least the AI clause, the training data that you're going to be used, because again, they can use your voice, a fragment of your voice, and it's going to be hard to actually prove
they can manipulate it, and like you said, they can just make you say something that doesn't align with you. And especially if you're doing like you said, a training video or something like that, that is you're not acting as a character, and that's where it gets a bit scary when it is you being represented as you as a person, not a character you're playing in a piece.
Yeah. And a lot of the technologies, when it was first starting, like 2 years ago, it was, you could tell, that it was AI. Now it's starting to get even better where it's like, I can't really tell anymore. And I can only imagine that it's going to get even better in a year from now. So one statement that I really heard from an AI influencer and educator was that each day that we're at, AI is at its worst. Meaning that, so every day it's going to get better and better. It's not going to go backwards. So in 6 months from now, you and I could be having a different conversation about AI because there's going to be so many new developments out there.
Absolutely.
It really depends on the situation and the technology because it's still developing at a lightning speed and it's worldwide. So, but I want to also say I use it again for content creation, and I think as especially influencers or some aspect or thought leaders can really utilize that to their advantage. So I look at it like rather than using like totally AI generated, but AI assisted. So
yes.
One of the fears that a lot of people hear when they think about AI is like, oh, AI is going to take my job away. I don't believe that one second. However, what I do believe strongly is that the people who know AI are going to be much more and a leg up in the job world than someone who doesn't, because most companies, especially if you could start saying the bottom line with like automations and admin tools, which is what AI is great for now.
Yeah.
It's going to save them a lot of money to hire someone who can do this, one person that can do 5 people's work because they know how to use AI.
Yeah.
So
exactly that. It's about assisting, isn't it? And how can performers or educators within our industry start integrating AI without losing their personal voice, do you think?
Well, I would say use it as a strategic partner. So you can use it to do research. You can use it to do outlines. You can help it improve your writing, but you still offer your own voice into it. You still put your own tone to it. So, let's say if I'm developing a piece of content or I'm writing a letter to somebody and I'm going to feed the AI what I want it to say. I'm not going to just think, hey, write me a letter to pitch me here.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to be very generic and it's not going to sound like me.
It's like mind dump your thoughts into it and get it to concise it into what you want.
And then going back and still revising.
Not just taking it as is.
Not just cutting and pasting and saying, okay, here you go. Because if prior to 2 years ago, most people I would imagine put content out. And your audience is going to know, hey, this doesn't sound like you.
Yeah.
Even though your name and your image is going behind it, this doesn't sound like you. And so, and then you may actually lose audience because again, they're here to hear you, not a computer version of you. So I would definitely say to use it as a brainstorming tool, an outliner, to enhance your messages. Like if you're sending out stuff, to use it to say, hey, make this better or rearrange this, or at least correct my grammar.
That's what I tend to do, where I say, just concise this for me. I a lot of the time I put a lot of words out there and I need it to be a bit shorter form, things like that.
The tool that I use mainly is ChatGPT, or I may use Claude, which is another large language model. So what's really good with ChatGPT is you can train it to write in your voice. Yeah. So what I do, and here's something that listeners can do, you take a piece of content, like a blog post or an article that you may have written on your own, or even a Facebook post or like a LinkedIn post that you wrote on your own, and you take 1 or 2 pieces of that. I usually say 2, not just 1, but take 2, at least 2. And you put it in there and say, you prompt the ChatGPT to analyze the writing, give me a detailed thing about the tone and style. And then it'll tell you that. And then you go to your custom instructions and say, this is what I want my output to be like. For me, I was, it came out like warm, inviting, professional.
Yeah.
So now I make sure that every output is warm, professional, and inviting, not cold, robotic like.
No, and it must help as well. It certainly helped me with this podcast. I've done exactly what you've said. I've put some of my own kind of bios of my guests and some of my own posts that I'd already done kind of in ChatGPT and said, help me to create my content to sound like this, but streamline it for me. And when you're a one-woman band, one person entity, like you said, we're entrepreneurs, we're freelance. A lot of the time you can be like an island, and you don't have that co-worker to kind of bounce off of. And I don't want this to sound like in a sad way, because it could come across that way, but sometimes AI at the moment is feeling like a bit of a co-worker,
because it's getting more and more conversational.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know you're not real, but you feel real, at some point. And you can just use it again as a brainstorming tool by saying, hey, I this idea. And even for social media, like if I'm putting a post, I'm like, I need some ideas for captions. I need some ideas for hashtags. I need some ideas for copy.
I always get it to give me options that I can pick from. I never say like one. No.
I usually say a sweet spot 5 to 10. So that's another thing that you can do as a give me 10 ideas or 10 captions, 10 sets of hashtags.
Because you're still creating, aren't you? You're still
because it's mixing and matching and then be like, okay, I'm going to add this word into it myself. I'm going to add that word into it. Another thing which I know this may tick off some YouTube creators, but another thing you can do is summarize YouTube videos with it. So let's say, especially if the YouTube video has a transcript enabled.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed is the older I tend to get, the more ADD I have. Unless you really grab me, I'm not going to really sit and listen to a 3-hour. I don't have the time to listen to a 2 or 3 hour YouTube video.
No, I'm not either. No.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people in our industry are not going to do that.
No, most people I don't think in a creative are going to do that.
No.
And or like what I might do is say, okay, I'll cut and I'll copy the transcripts, put in the ChatGPT and say, please summarize this and give me 10 to 15 or even 20 bullet points of this video. What are the important takeaways? What are the important nuggets of information? And then that takes it. So I watched a 3-hour YouTube video in 2 minutes. If you think about it.
I didn't actually think about doing that. That's a really great tip, especially, for actors, you're researching a role or something and you're not actually looking for mannerisms. You're looking for information about a character or information about a piece.
If it's an informational content or information load or dump, you want to get that information quickly. So, or even just, there's other transcription tools you can use. So like I go to a lot of conferences, business conferences, I'll get these recordings at the end of the day. And I have hundreds of hours of recordings. There's no way I have the time to go through them. And now, thankfully, I can get the transcripts and again do that tool. Give me the 10 pieces of information. Now, if I find, this looks great. Now I can go back and say, well, maybe this is a recording I should listen to.
Yeah.
Because I like the information here. Because sometimes with these long form videos, they're great and all, but maybe there's 5 minutes or 10 minutes of good content and the other 2.5 hours are just fluff or just general
conversational, which is great sometimes.
But if you're in a crunch to get information, I'm gonna want give me the gist of it, give me the summary, and so you could do that to save time.
And honestly, I think that's music to a lot of creatives' ears, because it's that classic work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah, and that's again, creativity is working smarter. You're still honoring the content of the video, because all ChatGPT is doing is just summarizing the actual transcript, and then giving you the 10 or 15 pieces of information. Or I might even say, what are some powerful, give me some 10 to 15 quotes that I can use or sound bites from this video, and it'll do that.
And what do you think is the biggest biggest kind of misconception that people within the arts industry have on AI? Do you think it is that whole, it's going to take my job?
It's going to take my job, because when AI first started, a lot of actors were like, I don't want to do AI, because in the States in 2023, the Screen Actors Guild, went on strike.
Yes.
And one of the provisions of the strike was AI. That was one of the contentions. Same thing with the Writers Guild, because the Writers Guild also went on strike that year. So there was the issue there of, AI. What's the purpose of AI? Now, the one limitation that I will say that AI hasn't been able to do yet is creativity. Like it doesn't really understand that. Like I've tested it too. I'm like, it's like, I'll say, ChatGPT, tell me a joke, or tell me a story, and the jokes, the humor aspect is not there yet, because the jokes that gave me are I've had better jokes from my 5-year-old nephew than what ChatGPT gave me. I'm like, these are like,
You're like, this is awful. You're not a comedian. You can't write
not even close to being a comedian. Or it's like, tell me a story. It can't do that. So it's not able, that's the limitation of that. So, as actors, storytellers, that's not going anywhere.
That's not going to be taken away.
However, again, if you want to do a strategy, if you want to do research for a story, if you want to do research for a part, where you need to do context and things like, I'm in a play and I'm playing in 1700s, in Scotland. Now you can do a lot of research with ChatGPT and say, okay, so tell me about this lifestyle. So you can use that as a tool to do that.
And I think what I'm hearing from you, constantly, is that it's a tool. It's a tool to aid. It's nothing to replace. It's to help.
It's not going to replace you. No. Now, again, the one thing that, like, for me, I guess the kind of like the thorn in my side for a while was social media. I'm not a social media really savvy person initially. Great business, but I'm great research, great background, but social media was like all Greek to me. Most of the time prior to AI, if you wanted to get good social media, you had to hire somebody or outsource somebody, which wasn't cheap. I mean, the prices I was getting quoted were like, $1,500, $2,000 US dollars a month. And I'm like,
wild.
Well, I can't afford that. However, now with ChatGPT, for the $20 a month plus plan, I have my social media content. And so now I'm not saying that these social media experts are going anyway anytime soon. However, you better pivot and adapt if you're going to be that type of person.
And I think that is
utilize that.
Good word, the pivot. I think my husband works within content in marketing, and he uses AI. He actually has an AI newsletter mainly for marketers, but it's actually relevant to anyone. I'm signed up to it. It kind of gives you quick takeaways to do that month, to use something to help you within your work and your life. He's ahead of the curve in his company, and the fact that he's using AI to aid him with his job, but he's also realizing that it can do quite a lot of his job. Not like take away from the creativity, like you said, but it can do the administrative tasks that take a lot of his time. So he's pivoted. He's now going to become like a content and AI specialist within his company. And he's taken that to the company and said, look, can I do this? Because I find it really interesting and I'm finding it really great integrating it into my career. So I think, he's like a kind of textbook example of integrating it into your career, staying relevant and ahead of the curve, but still working in what you've worked towards and what you love. Like he's a writer at the end of the day. He's still writing, like what you said, he's still creative. He still has his own voice. That can't be taken away. But all of the other bits can just be aided. And actually, in a way, don't we think that can free up creativity?
Yeah, absolutely. And now you can take time to do other stuff that you may not have, because now you have this, AI automating stuff. Now you could focus on making the deals, making the connections.
Yeah.
and do things this way. And you can also amplify your reach. Like I said, it's definitely a tool. And, even for you, again, as podcasters, I think it's great to show notes, to great with researching your guests, to
Yes.
and coming up with different questions too, because
Yes.
other things to talk about. Like what should I talk about?
Yeah. So I'll share a secret of the podcast. I ask for my guests' bios, how they would like to be represented on the podcast, and I pop it into ChatGPT, and I say, give me some questions, some sample interview questions around this, that would be good to talk to my guest about, and then they throw some bits at me. Sometimes I don't like some of them, sometimes I love some of them, so I'll cherry pick them, and I'll sometimes go back for more and say, how can I delve into this section more? And for me, it just helps shape what I'm going to say.
And that's the part of, like, with AI output, it's not just to take the first thing it gives you.
No.
You should be massaging it in a sense by saying, okay, going back and forth, being okay here. And then you just go back and forth, but like, I like your direction where you're going here, but none of that.
Yes. And sometimes I'm like, they're a bit serious. Can we make it a bit more fun? Or,
things
Can
like
you
add more in this direction? This is the direction I want to go into. And it does that.
We are still spending time researching and reading, because actually I'm getting to know my guests' kind of bios and livelihoods more by doing that than just reading it and writing my own notes, because I'm constantly going back and forth and I'm rereading sections and being like, I didn't think about that side of their hustle in that way, but I'd like to talk about that now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Thank you. So that's the biggest direction I would say that you can use it as a brainstorming tool and a tool.
And I think it all comes on to mindset, doesn't it? Which kind of brings me on to the next section that I'd love to chat about, how we think about our craft and how we think about what we use and how we do things. So you've worked with performers at all levels. What's like the number one mindset block that you see holding creatives back?
Fear, burnout, but I would definitely say fear. I work with a lot of actors, and the acting community, it's most people who are artists love doing the work. Well, it's everybody should if you're an artist, but the reality is that there's so much competition. There's so many actors out there. At least in the States, there's several 100,000 actors that are trying to, make a career out of this. So only 2 or 3% really make enough living to sustain it. Most actors, at least almost every actor I know, has to have some sort of other job, survival job. Some of them work in business. Some of them work in are fitness instructors. Some of them are temp workers or work in catering. They do things to sustain their livelihood. Now, a lot of the drama schools, and this is where I feel the limitations of drama school come in. They prepare the actors for the craft-wise. The craft, great, important, technique, important. But they don't prepare them enough for the business side of things, the actual resilience, the grit that's going to be needed to survive.
Even degrees don't. So I did a degree in contemporary performance. I didn't go to drama school, and I'm an actor, director now. But even degrees don't. And you'd think you've got, it's half practical, half theory. So you have the theoretical side, and even I don't know now. My degree was a while ago. But even the kind of more quote unquote quote fingers academic, side of an acting degree, still I just feel like school hasn't been giving that.
Right. And they don't really teach the business side, the survival skill side of things, the actual how to really navigate a large market. And so a lot of these young kids, 21, 22, are coming out of school, they're excited and rightfully so, of course. They're passionate, they're bright-eyed, they're excited. And then they go into a large market, which is a bit different than drama school. or different than university or college, where, okay, maybe you were the actor and you were cast in every production because there was a limited number of you and they had to cast. Now, when you're in a large market, there's thousands of you for one role.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times being told no over and over again can really delay and hurt someone's performance in a sense.
Absolutely. And you work with hypnosis, which I find fascinating. How does that come into it?
Well, I use it more indirect in the coaching perspective than an actual traditional head. So a lot of times what it really works well in my world is working with limiting beliefs and working with blocks.
Yeah.
And a lot of times blocks can be subconscious, meaning that we're not aware of what's happening. So very often, especially a block that comes in for a lot of creatives is imposter syndrome and also fear of success, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, fear of success is a real thing. And that's one thing I've noticed over the years because...
Would you also call that like self-sabotage?
Yes. And so that's been like the cornerstone of my work. So aside from all the other hats I do, I have a PhD in psychology. So when I was first starting my work as a talent rep, this is back about 20 years ago, I was like, I'm going to go back from the PhD because I already had my master's. So I was like, I might as well just go and completely finish the degree.
I love that. So, you're like, why not? Let's just
exactly
add PhD to it. I'll become a doctor. Yeah.
So it was kind of like simultaneously starting, launching my business and starting my PhD studies. The one block that I kept running up against with actors was the self-sabotaging aspect of things. Not showing up for appointments, being unprepared for appointments. And I also saw this with college students too, not being prepared for exams, not stuff them in the class.
Do you think that's low self-belief in themselves?
Part of it is because when I was going for my PhD at the university, our advisor had suggested to us that we should pick a topic for our dissertation, which is the PhD capstone project, to answer a burning question that we've been facing. And one of the questions that I had is, what's up with these damn actors? What's going on here? Why are these actors self-sabotaging? Because a week before they were telling me how much they want to work, and yet I'm finding them opportunities and they're not taking advantage of them.
Not doing it.
So, so that's when I came up with self-sabotaging behavior in performing artists, and the university loved it and accepted it, and that was my dissertation, like self-defeating behavior in performing artists, actors especially. So, self-defeating means, in other words, self-sabotage. So the one thing I found out, because I did a rigorous research study, self-esteem is definitely a factor, especially high self-esteem, because a lot of actors sometimes have a grandiose, not a lot, but some have that, like, I'm an actor, I'm better than, I am so gifted, I'm above everybody. That's a biggest recipe for self-sabotage, because you're not going to be open to feedback. You're not going to be coachable. Because I've seen this too, where I would sometimes, because my role, even as an agent or an industry person, is to sometimes give constructive feedback.
Yeah.
With a performance reel or their marketing materials or their package. And a lot of actors are very appreciative of that, but some get offended. Like, how dare you?
Yeah. As a director myself, I've like a director performer, I feel like my directing has helped me as a performer, because I know that if a director is giving me notes, that's okay, because I've had to do it too. But I've also come up against people that really don't know how to take it, and you're like, I'm literally doing my job. I'm just trying to make you better, and I'm trying to make the performance better. It's not personal, but people really do take it personally, right?
Yeah. And that's part of being, that's being, I think, general successful anywhere in life. You have to be coachable. You have to be directable. That's the reality of it. So if you're not coachable in any profession, you're not going to succeed very well. You're going to be holding yourself back in this form of self-sabotage. I also looked at there's a concept in psychology called self-efficacy, which is the belief in your ability to do something. So if you have like low self-efficacy when you don't believe, you're a struggling artist. So this is kind of going back to hypnosis. A lot of times the language you use. So if you tell yourself, I'm a starving artist, I'm a struggling actor, or I'm out of work actor, for some reason society romanticizes the starving artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really understand why,
No,
because
no one
what you're
really
doing,
wants that. Who actually wants that? Like, we don't.
and I hear that a lot from actors that are like, "Yeah, I'm an aspiring actor," but no, you're not aspiring any. You're an actor. You're
Yeah.
not or you're not a starving artist. Because when you say these words, you're creating your reality. And so, if I have low self belief, well, and I heard I would hear actors sometimes chatter, and I would, would be like, "Yeah, I'm an audition for this role, but I know I'm not going to get it." I'm like, "Well, then why are you auditioning?" At
Yeah.
that point, because when you already walk in with that mentality, with I may not get, no,
You
your
are setting
performance is going
yourself up to fail, aren't you?
to, yeah, and your performance is going to suffer, and it's not going to be the best it can be.
Mm,
So one thing I found is when I did my research, the biggest finding was personality factors too
mm-hmm.
into it. So there's one well-known model of personality that I use in the study called the five factor, the big five, which is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found specifically the glaring finding that kept coming up, because I actually did empirical research on this, was if you're high in neuroticism, which means being anxiety prone, like some people can get really anxious over little things, trivial
Mm-hmm.
things. Some people, it takes a long time. So if you're high in neuroticism, you're easily stressed out or easily flustered. You add that with low conscientiousness, refers to like discipline and work ethic. Those
Recipe
are
faster.
that's the recipe for self-sabotage right there. So that kept coming up with high neurosis, low conscientiousness. So this is where again the business side of acting is really important
Mm,
because you need to increase your conscientiousness level. So keeping planners, keeping schedules, doing research, being thorough, preparing. Because
yeah.
one thing I also found is a lot of people overestimate how disciplined they are.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are surprised when they find out that there's actually tests you can take online to measure how conscientious you are. And most people are surprised to find that their scores aren't as high as they think they are.
Yeah. I guess it's that constant like push pull as a creative where as much as you want to be business savvy and business minded, and we can be, I'm talking about myself as well, like we can be, you've also got that urge to just be reactive and creative and not get like bogged down by the constraint, even though it's not a constraint, like they should go hand in hand. But I feel like you do get
Yeah.
that kind of devil angel thing of, okay, well, I don't want to be too like business focused and minded, because then it takes away from the just say yes creative actor in me. And I don't know, it's that healthy balance which I do think a lot of us struggle with.
Yeah. And you do need that balance because you certainly need that creativity. That has to stay.
Mm,
That has to really stay. But you should also be, this is why I think it's not a bad idea for acting programs to have business classes.
oh, I think it's do you know what, even just to tell us how to do our tax return, that honestly, I know it
Yeah.
sounds so silly, but everyone I talk to, either old or new in the industry, is like, well, I never got told how to do my taxes. And a lot of us can't afford to have an accountant, especially straight off the bat,
Hmm.
slash we don't want one, because if we can do it ourselves, we're gonna, that's like ingrained in us as artists, I think. So I think even just having those practical, this is how you literally administer your creativity,
Hmm.
would just be ideal, wouldn't it?
Of course. So you should have that business savvy side to you because that'll create systems and all of that. So, and again, still have your creativity, still have your openness, still have your fun, aspects and the exciting things of things, but that business focus has to be that laser focus. So one thing I try to really emphasize to actors, or really work to emphasize is that you are the CEO of your career. You are the
Mm-hmm.
CEO. So that business side of things is so important to have. So, and a couple of things, another thing is like rewiring beliefs. That's another thing with hypnosis that,
Yeah. Do you have any success stories of, someone you coached or worked with or mentored, or even casting director, side of your job? Have you got like a one success story that really sticks with you where you've rewired that?
yeah, I mean, one person I was working with, because I used to sub instructor, come in as a guest instructor at an acting school. Now
Mm,
I don't teach acting in a sense, but I was teaching from an agent perspective of what I look for. So I would critique a performance from that and talk about the business side of acting. So there's one person in the class who, prior to me meeting her, was like 9 or 10 years as an actor.
mm-hmm,
Not really, did not much traction. However, her business job, day job, she was like a merchandise buyer at Macy's in New York,
mm-hmm.
and she was very well in her company. She was like going through the ranks, had a really nice job. Off camera, when you spoke to her, she had a very powerful gravitas to her. Like you could tell this is business wise she succeeded. When she was acting in her performance, she was very timid and very like high pitched voice, very soft spoken, weak. And so for me and her acting teacher, we kind of said, okay, can you adapt your gravitas persona when you're yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and take these into the characters you play? And it took a bit of a massaging and training at getting rid of bad habits a lot. But when she started doing that, her booking rate increased. Work.
And isn't that amazing? Because I do think that we forget sometimes, or slash, we haven't always been told in our training that you do need to use you do need to use parts of
Yeah.
your more authentic self, to use a wanky term.
And,
Yeah, part of yourself to actually project into the character you're playing
yeah,
to make it come alive.
of course. And I've even heard this from casting directors that, like, one of the things they love is, yes, it's important to read only the script and honor the writer and honor the word. However, don't read as you think it should be read. How
Yeah,
would you approach that?
yeah.
So how would you, Rebecca, play this nurse or this
Mm.
doctor? So use yourself in a sense playing this role. Because so every performance, so if I'm a casting director and I'm seeing 25, 30 auditions,
Mm.
now it's the same script, the same dialogue, I should be watching 25, 30 distinct performances. So
Yeah.
one thing when you're branding yourself as an artist, the one mistake also is don't compare yourself to other people. Like, I don't want to hear that you're the next Meryl Streep or that you're the next Denzel Washington.
You're
There's
you.
only one Denzel, there's only one Meryl Streep, there will only be one of them.
Yeah,
We don't need another one. We need one of you.
yeah.
So, and another secret, like when you're in a long-standing project, like let's say you're a lead in a TV series or even a lead in several movies, the writers start to write for you.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of my clients who worked on these TV shows, were actually shocked to see that in the writers' room, oftentimes the actors go into the writers' room, lead actors, and be like, "Okay, test this line out. I don't like this line, or I would never say that." So they have input because it's them. So that's the important thing. So you never know, and a lot of times when it's in pre-production, a lot of times the writers don't even know what they want as a character yet.
Yeah.
So
They
that's
need to
where,
see that come off and then also, you need to just give what you think and feel, and then that's the director's job to help mold that
yeah,
along with the writer and the producer and you.
it,
Like,
it, it's totally up to them. And also that requires you being comfortable in your skin. So you have
yes,
to be comfortable in your own skin to do that. And So another approach is when you going in for that audition, you have that 2-minute audition.
Mm,
Or, a lot of times because of COVID and the pandemic, most auditions are done at home, you self-tape.
yeah.
So the one thing that I would say, whether you're doing a self-tape or you're going into a studio or an office to audition, is to not look at it like, believe it or not, do not look at it like as just an audition. Look at it as a chance to perform. Most working actors that are very successful, I've said this before, they treat their auditions as a performance.
I think there's something to be said about actually having fun in an audition and not just being like,
Yes.
gotta book it. I know it's important and I know we got to make our bread and butter, but it's that kind of
Yeah.
like you said, if you treat it like a performance, if you're
You
performing,
have fun.
you want
You
to,
have fun, and you don't attach to the outcome. Let it go. As soon as the audition is over, let it go. Don't even think about it.
yeah,
Because another, I think, frustrating thing, and I can understand the frustration with actors, very rarely do you hear anything. It's like usually you don't hear it. It's like radio silence
yeah.
after the audition.
And then when you do, you feel so grateful.
Yeah, of course. Even if it's like, look, we went in another direction. Thank you for it's still a great thing to hear.
Thank you for letting me know. Like
Yeah.
We shouldn't feel so blessed when people do that, because
But,
I feel like in other industries people can but
and
it's very nice when we get it.
and also, going back to what you said, if you welcome the mentality, you need to book this. I need to book this. You're in your head. You're not using your creative voice anymore. And a lot of times, what I notice, even when I look at performances, again, I'm not an acting teacher. I don't have training, but I can tell you, I notice a habit that a lot of actors do, especially the beginner ones, is they're not listening to their scene partner. What they're doing is they're focusing on how are they going to deliver the next line. And it becomes a very mechanical, one-way conversation than it is an actual organic scene.
Number one thing I say when I'm directing, I'm like, but you've got to listen. It's the thing I say all the time. You've got to, like, I said to them, when you're talking to you, you're listening to me, aren't you? And like, one of my friends is like, well, yeah, we're having a conversation. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like, you're having a conversation.
That's all it is. Yeah. It's so simple, but yeah, it does take training, but so simple to do that.
And it's memory recall. And when you're trying to remember that line, like I'm an actor myself, so I do understand it. And it's that I have to remind myself to listen. I'm like, don't just think what's next, because otherwise you're then not going to react and you're not going to be acting well.
and that's not going to come, so because part of being a good actor is also being a good reactor.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest note for a lot of actors is like, learn to react more, because now that the advantage,
one of my performers says every rehearsal, and I love her for it because it's so true. Acting is reacting.
Yes, and that's very often a big no, because as an agent now with in the self-tape world, I can now sometimes watch my clients' auditions, and that's the biggest no I'm giving them. Like, stop, acting and focus more on your reacting, because that's how you do in a normal conversation. You react. Someone says something, you react to it, and then you go back.
You don't reel stuff off.
And when you become less attached to the outcome like that, like going back to what I said before, having fun and treating it as a performance, you're gonna do a much better job at auditioning, and you may have a better chance of booking it.
Yeah, it's like so interesting. It's so interesting to talk about how, psychology and mindset comes into it, because of course it does. We are performing with us as a tool. As actors, we are literally using ourselves as the tool. So to have some of that self-reflection is super important, but to also not be too inside of our minds that it stifles us. I feel like that's the takeaway that I'm getting myself, which is great. It's, being aware, but not being so self-aware that you can't do anything. Does that make sense?
Of course, absolutely. And that it's just, again, it's working with mindset, working with reframing, and again, just get out of your head, have fun. The 2 minutes, and if anything, that's what you become an actor and performer do, is to have perform, and so you have your 2 minutes. That's your performance opportunity.
Yeah, nail it.
And go with it. Be prepared, but have fun, and let your creative side come out. Bring yourself into the character.
Yeah.
So that, and again, don't take it personal. A lot of actors, I think, take things personal. Like
it's hard, isn't it?
It's so hard, but it's important not to.
I know.
because it's not personal. It's
No,
not, it's just,
it's work.
they went another direction. You weren't the right person for the role. And so a lot of times when I tell people what I'll do, I hear people say, "Oh, I want to be an actor, but I'm so tired of the rejection." And I'm like, well, how about thinking of it of not as rejection? So what I often say, and this is a quote that I've I heard of that I love, is there's no such thing as rejection. It's only a gentle reminder that your services are not needed today.
Oh, I love that.
So if you take that as an artist and you internalize it, like, look, okay, not today. This
Yeah, it's just not
wasn't for me.
today, but the next day, a new opportunity. It's that classic saying, one door closes, another door opens. It's literally that, isn't it? But just taking that with you every step of the way
Absolutely.
and saying
Yeah.
that. I feel like you have got like a plethora of experience. You've worked across like the industry, but in a really like interesting way. So I kind of end the podcast with this question with all of my guests. We'll sum up. What's the weirdest job you've ever done? The oddest job, the weirdest one that you can think of that you've done? Doesn't have to be industry related either.
Weirdest. Let's see. I think when I was in high school, I cleaning parks and sometimes cleaning after people, litterers and all that, which was a little on the disgusting side. So something I don't want to do, but that was the most weirdest thing. I mean, I like what I do, so maybe what I might do might be weird to some people and might be completely normal to me.
That's
Like
the
again, I
psychologist
work.
in you.
Yeah, and I think some people say, well, the weirdest thing is you work with actors. Like, no, I love working with actors.
No,
So
we're not. Hang on, we're not weird. We're wonderful.
absolutely no, and so I would definitely say I would definitely probably cleaning up litter off the ground is probably the weirdest thing I'd never want to go back to. And I will say this too: when I worked in higher ed for years, I worked full time for a moment as a college professor at a community college in 2-year college, and this
I bet
was
you learned a
10,
lot.
15 years ago. What I learned was there's more drama in higher ed than there is with actors.
Wow.
The politics was not. I never want to go back to working full time academia again because
Really?
there was a lot of politics there.
Oh my God. You know what? I do hear that a lot. Just people I know that work in schools, that there is just a lot of inter-politics.
Yeah, the
And
students are great. I love the students.
oh
But
God, yeah.
it's the administration.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because it's such a like close, tight network and it's like almost like a captive audience?
I think it's a captive audience. I also think that because administration is all about bottom line, which is understandable. You need that.
Yeah.
The financial side of things, the bottom line, the graduation rates. So students are really just a number, the faculty is just a number sometimes, and they're focused on the bigger picture administrative work. But a lot of times faculty members don't feel supported.
Yeah.
And then there's, just like other situations of rivalries within faculty members.
Yeah, of course. Which is always going to. And I used to do a lot of theatre and education when I lived in London, which meant, as a theatre company or as a practitioner running a workshop, you would go in and perform or facilitate in schools. So you'd kind of just be like, boop, boop, just like parachute in and out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd be there for like if it was a workshop day, for example, I was delivering, I don't know, a curriculum-based musical theatre workshop, let's just say that was what we were doing. I'd sometimes be there all day, so I'd be back-to-back classes. I'd be doing it to all different curriculum bases and ages. And so I'd have access to like the staff room. And I always found it like really fascinating as an actor, as a creator, as a director, as a practitioner. I loved people watch, and you get ideas for your own stuff. And it was a bit fly on the wall-y because you'd kind of come in and it was that kind of, everyone would look at you when you walked into the staff room, but no one was super friendly. And then I found my people that would be friendly. So if I ever had a question, just like where's the coffee, or like
Of course.
where's the toilets, because the receptionist has let me in and showed me to the hall. I've not been shown the facilities. Always go to the PE teachers. They were always the kindest. I guess maybe it's because the practical side, because I'm talking like primary schools I would go into, so they wouldn't have a drama department, for example, so I couldn't find a drama teacher. So he'd always go, and even if I did go to secondary schools, sometimes the drama teacher was rarely in the staff room. They're all over the place as we are, but it's always, and obviously the PE teacher, because they will be in physical education gear. They'll be in shorts and a t-shirt and have a whistle or whatever, and they would always be so lovely, and no one else would ever help or talk to me, and then you'd get funny looks, and you'd also, if you were somewhere for like a week's a week's workshop, for example, I used to do that sometimes, or like make a show in a week, you'd get to see the little cliques. I feel like a movie probably has been done about this, but I feel like if it hasn't, it needs to be. You know, when you watch like a teen drama and they go through the hallway and they go like, these are the blah blah people, these are the goths, these are the weirdos, these are the these popular girls. I feel like that's a thing amongst teachers as well. You see who sits with each other, what different departments and different vibes. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
And so I could definitely feel what you're saying from not even having worked there full time, just as someone like an outsider coming in and out.
Right.
And I can imagine I could see it both ways as well. I could probably see how it would be quite a nice community if it was a very supportive environment.
Of course.
Yeah. But that's really interesting. Oh, I love, what a way to end it. You've got me thinking. Maybe I should write a film script. I should do some research first to see if there is a film. There probably is. I digress. Before we wrap up today, Albert, I feel like I could talk to you forever. So thank you. Honestly, it's been fascinating.
Thank you. It was a great conversation.
Have you got anything you want to shout about? Anything you're working on, or anything that you've done? I'll pop links, to anything that you want to shout about. But
sure. Right now on my website, I have a lot of recordings available for purchase. And there are a lot of like 15-minute sound bites for like meditation, hypnosis recordings. So if you want to listen to boost your confidence, you want to boost your leadership, public speaking, leadership, addictions, sleep, sports performance, there's so many things available to you.
Nice. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. I actually myself have had hypnotherapy in the past. I'm not afraid to admit that, or not admitting it, to say that. So I absolutely can see how those tools can help, because they helped me once upon a time. So
absolutely.
We'll definitely I'll put the link to that in all of the information so people can access that. And what's the next podcast you're on? Because you're a bit of a podcast person, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I have things coming up. I've been blessed to be guesting on a lot of shows. Tomorrow I'm doing one on MetaFit, MetaMind, which is kind of an NLP type of podcast. So yeah, I've been doing a lot, and that's great. I also want to promote, if I can mention my book briefly.
Yeah, please do.
So it's called Rise Above the Script: Confronting Self-Doubt, Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. It's available on Amazon, or it's an audiobook as well as an ebook. So all different formats. So that's kind of like what I've been talking a lot about, my book and all that.
And I think we've spoken so much about some of those topics today about that will be in that
of course,
book.
With self-sabotage, absolutely.
Yeah, so if people have enjoyed listening to that, then absolutely, the book is for you.
Definitely check out the book. Yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And thank you for being part of the arts.
I really am glad to be here. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Part of the Arts. If you enjoyed this episode or any of the others, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Also, we would love it if you could support this passion project by buying us a coffee. All the info is below. Thank you, and see you next time.